Happy Friday. Welcome to Fridays with Fidelman. I'm Cheryl Fidelman, life coach, trauma healer, and writer. And this is the first Friday of December 2019. And today's topic on Fridays with Fidelman is codependent empathy. This is kind of a continuation of the ideas that I put out there in my video, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, called Make No Interpretation. I have a little bit of a cold, or I'm at the end of the cold, the cycle of the cold, so I'm going to speak as loud as I can. I hope it comes through. So codependent empathy. I think it's really important to distinguish empaths, because there are people that identify as empaths, where they can actually not just feel another person's energy, but feel the energy and identify what the other person is feeling. They can feel the other person's energy and also identify potentially what the other person is thinking. And that's a real skill set, for lack of a better way of saying it. There are people who are empaths. There are people who are empaths/psychics. And so I'm not referring to that group of people. What I'm referring to are people who are codependent empaths. And oftentimes, it's an illusion. People say, I'm an empath. I can feel what other people are feeling. And I'm going to challenge that by saying there's an underbelly to empathy, which is codependence, which is, we may have this experience that we're really sensitive. Oftentimes, and a lot of my clients say, I'm empathetic. I'm so sensitive. I feel so much. When there's a lot of people around me, I feel all their energy. I'm going to throw out the idea that it's possible that it's not necessarily that you're feeling their energy, but you're feeling an overwhelm of fight or flight when there's a lot of people around. And so that, I think, falls in the category of codependent empathy, because what you're saying is my feelings are actually not my feelings. They're other people's feelings that I'm identifying are coming into my experience. And so that is another way of saying all of these people are directing and navigating my experience. And that is a huge codependent pattern. Also, when it comes to feeling empathetic, or thinking that you know what's going on in somebody else's world. Oftentimes what happens is, not on a conscious level, on an unconscious or subconscious, which they are the same thing, on an unconscious or subconscious level, you're experiencing a similar interaction from your mother or your father or your guardian or the bully at school, whichever person you had a overt or covert traumatic experience with. And so you feel that same dynamic, or you feel the person gives you a similar look that your mother did, or they're sending you like some message, like they give you a look and you're like, okay, I know what that look means. I know what they're thinking. And then you respond as if that's what they're thinking. Or you start to frame the relationship as if I know what's going on in their world, and now I'm going to protect myself from what I know is going on in their world because I'm empathetic and I can read people's energy. When you're a codependent empath, you may actually have the skill set of reading other people's energy, but until you heal your codependence and the trauma that caused your codependence, you won't be able to tell which feeling you're feeling is yours and which feeling is theirs. If you can't identify what's going on over here and distinguish what's going on over here is a result of me actually being triggered, afraid, I'm looking to protect myself now. Okay? That is not pure empathy. Pure empathy is I actually can feel what they're feeling, I can identify what they're feeling, I am actually sitting here as if I am in their experience, and I have compassion for it, and I don't need to protect myself from it. I'm just simply validating it because I know what's going on with them. But if you're sensing energy that you then have a protective mechanism that gets triggered, that's codependent empathy. And then you're developing that interaction or that relationship around fear. I hope that what I'm saying doesn't sound too abstract. There's messages that we get when we get locked into a similar kind of dynamic from our childhood. The message is often move away from this person or get closer to them and help them and understand their reality, right? And that's for a lot of us codependents. When we were raised by narcissists, we either saw their like a certain look on their face or a certain energy come from them, and our response was either run away or move forward and be in service of their experience. Either choice or either decision is in order for us to feel protected. I'm going to protect myself by leaving. I'm going to protect myself by leaning into this experience and being in service of their world. That is codependent empathy. I notice what's going on with them, and because whatever it is that I'm noticing is triggering my need and my desire to protect myself, shift my own reality, make some other decision than the decision I was already going to make. The other thing that I want to point to is curiosity. So if your experience of empathy or if your experience of thinking that you know what's going on in somebody else's world, you know what they're thinking, you know what they're feeling, you know what messages they're trying to empathically send you. If your experience of all of that negates your curiosity, then I'm going to say that's a codependent, empathetic response. Because if you're thinking, I think that this is what that person is thinking. I think that this is what that person is feeling. I'm feeling something over here, and this is how I'm interpreting their experience, and I'm right about it, and I'm sure about it, and I'm not going to ask them if I'm right. I'm not going to say, hey, I'm wondering if you're sad. I'm wondering if you're mad at me. I'm interpreting this situation as if you want me to leave, or I'm interpreting the situation as if you love me. You know, if any of your interpretations from your empathetic hit are negating your curiosity, then that is codependent. Then you're in a codependent empathetic reaction. And curiosity, I've spoken so much about it. It is my number one most favorite thing that I am a proponent for is curiosity. So if anything is repressing your curiosity, then that is something that is massively important to look at. Curiosity is connection. Curiosity is knowing, right? Curiosity is really knowing. Because if you're not curious and you're stuck in thinking that you have some strong belief that you know, then there is no possibility. There is no connection. There's just like really a limit to how far you can go in a relationship, in any sort of event or communication. If curiosity is limited, then the possibility of the connection is limited. And also, curiosity is where our innocence lives. That's really, like, always really moving to me, no matter how much I talk about it. Curiosity, wonder, the courage to ask, and even the fact that you may have to generate the courage to ask, right? The more you generate the courage, the more asking becomes an actual automatic thing to do. Let me be curious here. I think I know, but maybe let me just check in to see if I'm right. Because for a lot of us, the knowing comes from, oh, this is how I know how to survive this. These are the decisions, the choices, the energetic moves that I made when I was a kid that I learned worked. And so I'm going to take that game playing and play all the other games in my life the exact same way, because I know how I got out of that maze, and I'm going to get out of this maze the same way. And it might not be anywhere close to the same maze that you had to gnaw your way through as a kid, figuratively, of course. The other thing that I want to point to are HSPs, or people who identify themselves as highly sensitive people. Now, when I talk about this piece, I want to be clear that I'm not a mental health professional. And so these are my opinions, and they're not fact, and I'm not going to go too far into HSPs, even though I don't think that an HSP is like, being a highly sensitive person is like in the DSM or something that's diagnosable, and that's not a disorder. But I just want to be clear that I'm not a mental health professional. I'm a life coach, and I focus on trauma healing. And I've worked with people who identify themselves as highly sensitive people. And I think that this is an important thing to look at when it comes to empathy, because highly sensitive people walk around 24/7. Most people, I'm taking a broad stroke in this demographic of people. They walk around 24/7 with like an acute response to all stimuli, and not just one dimension of response, but like physical, mental, emotional, somatic, sensorial. There's an acute reaction to every level in which you could possibly feel something. And they're living in that consistently. Now, is that is that empathy? It's a great inquiry. Is that empathy? Okay? Is that actually the ability to consistently sense what is actually really happening around you all the time? Now, I'm not speaking for the whole demographic of HSPs, but for some HSPs, that is like, first of all, there's something magical about that demographic of people, because some people do so much work for decades to feel a fraction of what they can feel. So there's something actually beautiful about it. There's actually, for some people, something actually kind of uncomfortable and torturous about it. But then there's a purity to them, or there's also a purity to them. So, but the piece that I'm looking at in the HSP world is like, how much of what they're feeling and sensing is fear from perceived threats that are constantly moving around them at all times. Like just living is a consistent perceived threat in their nervous system. And so as we, in the path of trauma healing and in my attunement practice, as we start to separate your feelings. What is your feeling? What is your nervous system's interpretation of this situation, of this person, of even just an empty room that you're in? I mean, our nervous system is constantly in interaction with everything that's around us. And we start to really, really like stretch things apart, slow things down, and really look at what is my feeling? What is my reactionary feeling? The way in which I'm interpreting what's happening. Is it me that's interpreting this? Is it my traumatic identity that's interpreting this? And what is actually their feeling? What do they own here? What do I own here? And if there is a feeling that you're actually like an empath or you want to become one, it's actually really, really beautiful experience to diminish as much of your protective layers as possible to actually stand inside of somebody else's experience. It's really moving for me because that is where really true connection comes from. Actually standing inside somebody else's experience and saying, I can feel that, I get it, I understand it. I don't have any judgment of it. It's got nothing to do with me. I see you, I validate you, I understand you, and I'm curious about what else is happening over there. And whenever I have a hit that I think I know something, I'm going to be curious about it. And that's the kind of attention that our hearts and our souls have wanted since we were born. And so that really, really is the essence and the beauty and the power of real, true, healthy empathy. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching this week. Have an awesome December. Enjoy the holidays. Be warm, be safe. Feed your faces with tons of food. And please subscribe to my channel. Please know in your heart that you are awesome, happy healing, and life is when? Life is now. Bye.